everything you know or think you know about sales is wrong. Throughout this video, you'll be faced with two choices. You either take the red pill and you actually find something that actually works and gets you fucking sales instead of people ghosting you all the time, instead of people just running away from you. So let's jump into it. So, who am I? Well, how did I start in sales? So, pretty much I started cold calling from my college dorm. Yes, this is a photo of my messy desk with books on it. I think there's a bottle of tequila on there. We got like 3 monitors, and we were just dialing all day, every day. This is what I did. I just got up and dialed, booked appointments for my agency, and that's it. At the time, I was calling gyms and just getting these gyms on a meeting to then close them. What I would do is just pretty much get people on a meeting, like I said, and I would use popular sales tactics. So I would find shit that I would see on TikTok. I would see shit, that I've read in books, popular books on sales, stuff like Grant Cardone, Jordan Belfort. These popular guys are the tactics that I would use. And I was constantly in this follow-up mode. I would get people who would agree to a meeting, and I would get like a 75% no-show rate because no one had fucking any respect for me. I had zero respect for me. I had tons of no-shows, and I was constantly in this chase mode. And if you think about it, if one person is being chased, if one person is doing the running behind the other person, what is the person in front doing? They're running. So there's some logic there. So there was this one specific instant that really took me by storm. And this is like kind of an epiphany moment for me. So I booked a meeting, and pretty much this was one of the meetings, one of the 4 meetings where the guys actually showed up. The guy joined the meeting, and pretty much what I was taught in sales from the courses that I've taken and stuff, and at the time, what I took at this time was to get to the pitch as soon as possible. The faster you are to get to the pitch, the more likely you are to close them, because then you can objection handle and etc. So pretty much what I was taught is to get to the pitch as soon as humanly possible. Who did I learn this from? I learned this from Jordan Belfort in Straight Line. Pretty much what the theory was is you start the pitch, and then you're going to have to go through a few different objections. They call them loops, right? Where you handle objections for 30 minutes. That's the chunk of the sale. And I dropped quite a bit of money to get into the Jordan Belfort course. I took it religiously. I wasn't even just financially invested. I was emotionally invested. I felt amazing about this guy. I was like, this is the solution that's going to make me $1 million. And how much money did this solution make me? Nothing. It made me a little bit of money, but it didn't make me that much. At least I had a strategy at the time. Before, I had nothing. This gave me some sort of direction, which was a plus, but still nothing. So I was on this meeting with this guy, and he told me this: "You're a great salesman." I'm sure a lot of you guys have gotten this before. "Oh man, you're a great salesman." Has anyone told you you're a great salesman? This is what he kept telling me. "You're a great salesman, man." Pretty much what he would do is he kept giving me the objections, and I just kept pushing through them. I was a crazy objection handler, but I wasn't handling it normally. I was handling it like, "Give me a chance to explain myself. Give me a chance, and then once I show you this, you're gonna want to sign up." Right? Pretty much I just kept persisting through these objections, kept them on the phone, and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And he kept telling me, "Man, you're a great salesman," and it was awkward on his behalf. And on my behalf, my stomach was a little bit raunchy because you have that feeling in your gut where you're like, I don't even want to hard close this guy. Why am I doing this? And it brought him to a point where he was just like, he had nothing to say because I just kept going through everything, and he just genuinely wasn't interested. And he would say, "Hey man, I'm not interested." And I said, "Hey, give me 30 seconds. Let me explain myself. I'm not interested." And I would just kept going through them. He just flipped on me. This guy just started yelling at me on the phone for a good minute straight. I should have hung up, but I just listened. And because I still thought I would be able to get through that objection. And he just hung up the phone, right? Crazy. So I was quite lost. I was like, what the hell do I do? I'm always in follow-up mode. And even the people I get on the sales calls, I can't even, close. Right? I had invested into this method. I was certain that it worked, but it wasn't working for me until I came across this book, and I actually have a screenshot of it. So I was actually on TikTok, and there's this book that Jeremy Miner, I kind of came across Jeremy Miner, and he said, read this book to sell as human. And at the time, I was like, okay, anything I need, any sort of help, any sort of guidance. So I went on my local library's website, and I looked up to sell as human. And funnily enough, it was in a library that wasn't too far from me. So I went with my girlfriend at the time, and we both drove, and I checked this book out on her library card because I didn't have a library card. I checked it out on her card and got the book, boom, and started reading it. And pretty much the first part of this book took me back because it just went in hot. There was no warm-up phase. It just took me back. Pretty much what the first part of the book was about is about the perception, the public perception that people have about salespeople. So there was a peer review survey, you could say, that was done where they asked hundreds of people, thousands probably of people all around America, common words they associate with salespeople. They found this. The most common were icky, pushy, and annoying. So people associate salesmen as being icky, as being pushy, and being annoying. People who they don't want to be around, right? So what does this say? Right? This then brings us into another point that the book kind of just touches on after. They're like, okay, why is this? Why does the public hate salespeople? Right? And pretty much I broke it into three phases. I'm going to jump into each of these three with you. Let's start with phase one. So phase one is a company called the Fuller Brush Company. So this is like after the war, 1950s, economy's doing good. Everyone has, their white picket fence in their house, and the husbands were out for work. Right? And the wives, they were just at home all day, cleaning, whatever, doing what they do in the house. So what would happen is there was this company called the Fuller Brush Company, and they had thousands of salesmen all across the world, pretty much going door to door, getting these wives per se, when the husbands weren't home. And pretty much what they would do is they'd enter your home. So they'd say, hey, I'm doing a survey. Can I come in? And then they'll say, yeah, sure. And then pretty much they would then give you the pitch once they're in, and then you had to buy something. And if you didn't buy something, they wouldn't leave until you bought something. So like a sponge or some sort of scrub or something from their supply list on their sheet, right? And this was happening all across America. And these people hated, people hated the Fuller Brush people, right? They would see them come in, they lock their doors. This is the type of stuff. And this was the first phase in everything. And then phase two is where we kind of get into the tactics. So those phase one people went on to teach the phase two people, and the phase two people went on to teach the phase three people in a way, right? So phase two is more of the tactics. So where specific persuasion principles were implied, we have like Jordan Belfort, this is Brian Tracy. We have, a few guys here, Joe Girard. And these guys were like the kings of sales, right? In terms of they kind of came across a gold mine because a lot of these people didn't have, salespeople didn't really exist before these people, like the Fuller Brush people, and then these people, right? And then these people were the first people to kind of really have tactics behind what they were doing. And they would teach these tactics and sell courses around these tactics. So if you take someone like Joe Girard, which is the guy on the right here with the car, he has had the Guinness World Record for the most amount of cars sold. And that was in the 1960s he did that, right? Pretty much what he teaches in his book is when someone would say, he'd ask someone, he'd call them up, say, hey man, how have you been? Have you vacationed anywhere recently? And they'll say, yeah, I just vacationed to Florida. And he said, oh, I was just in Florida too, right? So wherever you would say that you just went on vacation, he would say as well that he was just there to build rapport. So he was a constant, and he would teach this in his classes. So he would teach you to lie, right? These are some of the tactics these guys taught. Brian Tracy teaches, leading with the pitch. Brian Tracy is a little bit more soft in terms of his approach. Jordan Belfort's a little bit more aggressive with the loops and whatnot. But again, these guys kind of came across these tactics that now still everyone is using. Everyone's using these hard close tactics, these slimy tactics that still shit on salesmen nowadays, right? And pretty much the thesis goes is if an army hasn't seen an attack before, it won't know how to defend against it. It's pretty straightforward. So like back then, these people, when they applied these tactics, like when Jordan Belfort used these straight line looping tactics, these people like who were buying stocks, they haven't seen those tactics before, so they were reactive to them. It was quick. They were hit with them, and it's like, okay, wow, yeah, I'm going to buy your stock, right? Same with Joe Girard. He uses these persuasion weird tactics that if they were used nowadays, they wouldn't work, but the army hasn't seen them before, the market isn't reactive to them, then it just, it works, right? So pretty much, if we look at today, that was in, the 60s, 70s, 80s when these tactics were really taught. And they're still used today. These hardcore, abrasive tactics that really put a, disdain into the market. Pretty much, there's a new solution. And this is the solution that I pretty much discovered with one of my mentors, Jeremy Miner. He really kind of opened my eyes to this through this book and through kind of the stuff he teaches. But after applying this to my sales, my sales shot up like tenfold. I went from chasing prospects to prospects kind of chasing me. My clients have been better because if you do a good job at actually selling, right, in terms of like qualifying and selling, then your prospects are going to be better. If your prospects are better, your product is better. Everything's better if you actually know, because sales is the foundation for everything business oriented. So what is the new solution? So number one, you have to genuinely see if you can help them in the first place. This sounds so basic, but no one does it. They're just kind of, just jumping into it and assuming. Assuming is the death of sales, right? Never assume. 3 is never be a product or solution pusher. Seek to understand before being understood. This is a very basic one, but no one does it. 3, the more data you have, the better your chances are of closing the deal. So if you take an AI, for example, like ChatGPT, GPT-4, these AI bots have so much data, right? They can outsmart a human easily. They can beat anyone in chess. They have, beat humans when it comes to brain computing power, right? Why? Because they have more data. So the more data you have about the other person you are trying to sell, the better. How do you get that data? You get that data by asking questions. Asking right questions that elicit an emotional response. You're going to want to ask questions about everything. Why do you want this? Obviously, there's a structure to that, but asking the right questions to elicit an emotional response, kind of like a therapy session. Why are you sad, man? Why do you want this, right? Next is no false scarcity. So people would say, yeah, even if you go to a car dealership now, people will say, yeah, I only have 2 more left. Get back to me by tonight or else I'm going to have to up the price, right? People just know that shit. Just don't use it anymore. It just looks like shit. Every time I've used false scarcity recently as well because I've tried to test it again, and it always ends up backlashing on me. Next is 6, don't try to hard close. When I say hard close, I don't mean like looping. Hey, if you give me a chance, no. If you give me a chance, no. No. Don't do that. Just if someone gives you an objection, just ask questions. Oh yeah, no, 100%. You have to agree with them. Of course, I agree with you. I thought you would say that. Would you say it's more of the price or like the actual, quality of the service? So you're just going to want to keep asking questions. If they give you objections, you just don't have enough data. Next is no qualifying. So these big, like Jordan Belfort, all these guys, Brian Tracy, they'll teach you to qualify. Sir, if you let me show you. I'm following up with you. I'm just touching base with you. If you could give me 20 seconds of your time, sir, right? That's all qualifying language. Rather try to disqualify. Hey, I don't even know if I can 100% help you in the first place. It's cool if I just ask you a few questions, see if I can help you. Boom. That's a lot better, right? And then this is the last one. This is actually the basis of how to win friends and influence people. This is the basis of it, is just be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Talk in terms of the other person's interest. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. This is the basis of it. You're just asking questions. You are investigating. You are an investigative journalist, right? Why are you interested in this? Why are you interested in that? Why us? Why us? You know, but ultimately be a good listener, seek to understand before being understood. That's the basis of sales in terms of the new solution. And that's pretty much it. I hope that kind of this slideshow gave you a little bit of data in terms of like, okay, I see what potentially I'm doing wrong. I see what potentially, the market's doing. But yeah, I hope this kind of gives you a good solution. After implementing this, everything kind of clicked in terms of my sales, and I was able to have a really good process for closing appointments. But yeah, thank you for watching. Cheers.